Hello, hello, how's it going? I guess there's only one person here now, so let me just make sure I get Troy in here. We're gonna start really soon, guys. Just making sure everybody gets in, and then we'll start probably in the next 30 seconds, roughly speaking. Okay, so let me share my screen, and then we'll get into kind of the topic here. If you guys have any questions, try to like type them in right now. We'll be going through a little Q&A right off the bat, and then we'll get into kind of the meat of the topic. So let me just share the screen. Okay, so we got it shared. Close out any of the useless tabs here. Okay, guys, so this week's topic is going to be adding in footer flows. So footer flows are essentially kind of ManyChat add-ons. So what kind of the footer flow stands for is like it's the tail end of whatever the main objective is that you wanted to complete. So if let's say you're running a rebate giveaway offer and they've just made their order, you verified it, everything's good, then what you could do instead of just saying, oh, thanks for, we verified your order, thanks for placing it, blah, 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 blah. You could be like, oh, thanks for placing your order. Would you like to, get notified of future rebate offers, right? And then capture their OTN or even capture their phone number or something along those lines where you're essentially adding something at the tail end of your kind of main objective. That's what footer flows stand for. So they're essentially like add-on flows that we've already covered in previous webinars, but they're just add-on, but to the extent that they're at the tail end of whatever the main objective was. So that's just kind of the only difference between add-on and footer flows. It's just the positioning of where they are. Okay, so the first kind of part here, the first slide, let me actually zoom in. I always forget to do this. So the first part here is just kind of going over the rules / expectation, guys. So again, these calls usually last roughly an hour long. I try to make it so it's a little less than that. I know everybody's, we're all busy peoples, and we don't want to just sit here in a call for 2 or 3 hours long. So I try to condense it into less than an hour, but usually it either goes a little over, sometimes a little under, but usually it's been going a little over. Other kind of things is that we do kind of 2 places where we have frequently asked questions, right? So, or Q&A really, where it's like you guys can ask any question you want, we'll answer it. It doesn't necessarily need to be related to the topic that we're, providing in the call. So it could be about, Amazon, it could be about rebates, it could be about what's going on or so on, right? I mean, it could be whatever you'd like, as long as it's not too like far out, like, completely not related to Amazon. Other thing is that if we do unmute you, which hasn't actually happened in any of these webinars, we'll ask that you do not share any sensitive information. We also ask that you don't share any sensitive information just in the chat period, just that way. Just keep in mind that these calls are recorded and they will most likely be watched. Oh, Troy just joined. So yeah, I was just going over the kind of rules here. And basically that is it. I don't think I can really add too much to that. So just, sensitive information, don't share. Calls last about an hour long. And we do have places where you guys can ask questions and then we'll answer the questions. All right, so let's see. So the next slide here, let me just go to the next one. Okay, so the next one is kind of what questions we got. So I see one right now. Can you roughly describe the new Facebook policies and the use of ManyChat? We're not allowed to use it to promote sales such as Labor Day sales. Is that correct? Okay, so that seems like a little bit of something news to me. Labor Day sales or Labor Day deals. Is that correct? I don't believe that's correct, but I could be wrong here. Have you ever heard of that, Troy? Any chance that like we can't, promote sales such as Labor Day deals?
I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, I haven't ever seen anything like that. That being said, I mean, we could be wrong here, but I don't think that's a thing. I know Facebook did change their policies roughly, I want to say like 8 months ago. So they're really kind of cracking down on a lot of different things, but one of the things that were kind of more impacting Amazon sellers in a whole was making it so you can entice people to leave reviews. Like they're really cracking down on pages doing that. So that's something that if you do get caught, they will just kind of suspend you immediately. But other than that, I mean, I haven't heard any like new policies that have just came out recently. I know that they just enabled, at least from my understanding, they just allowed OTN back into the EU kind of marketplace. So that's awesome. That's like great, about time. Other than that, I haven't heard any new policies. I know it's ever changing, so it is a little challenging to keep up with, but I haven't heard of any news that you can't promote deals on like special events such as Labor Day. Let's see, do we have anything else? I don't think we have anything else, but we will be fairly vigilant in terms of like looking to see if you guys ask questions. I do sometimes like pause between, slides and so on, but I don't necessarily like to pause the entire presentation just to answer a question. So if you guys have any questions, yeah, ask them now. Okay, so we have another one. Is it a good idea to promote Q4 sales, Christmas sales, Prime Day, flash sales, etc., to deal pages, or should we stay with ranking? That's a good one. So I would say it is. It depends on the product, because some products will not do well when in terms of like trying to promote it during Q4. So an example of this is like if you're selling a spatula or something very vanilla, it's very difficult to kind of promote that in terms of like, oh, this is a great gift, everybody needs one of these. It's difficult, but there are some products that are more, let's say, gadgety or unique, or like maybe they're like certain toys or something like that, that would make sense to promote during kind of Christmas and Prime Day and all these other kind of events. So I think it's very product dependent. I think that's how I'd answer that. You got any kind of thoughts on that, Troy?
The only thing I would say too is as we're going into Q4 and thinking sort of pre-holiday, I think maybe the spirit too behind the question is this would be a good time to try to rank in advance of that season. And obviously you want to be mindful of inventory and inventory readiness if you're sort of newly ranking a product that hasn't been in a top spot and you have to maintain that inventory. But that's the only thing I would stress. So kind of like the promotion of those sales and flash sales, I would say sort of think about pre-holiday ranking readiness, which may mean you sort of ramp up for inventory now and start to push heavily now, which would just be a great part of planning. But if you can start winning your market share before there's a holiday rush, yeah, now is a good time to be thinking about doing that.
Yeah, for sure. I would say consider kind of ranking as kind of in the broad spoke of like, I guess, marketing, right? Like if you could think of marketing as a big pie, ranking would be kind of a slice of that pie. And depending on how much budget you have, like, or how big you are, or how big the company is that you might be working for, or you're working with, or you are, that slice maybe could be just a tiny portion of it, right? And then other costs could go into like, let's say influencer marketing. Then it could go into kind of advertising, like legit advertising, where you're running like Google ads or YouTube ads, and all these type of different advertising. The thing that we kind of really focus in on is just ranking, because that's like a very big portion of SEO, right? Trying to be well positioned so that way when people do search for you and Amazon's massive search engine, they'll find you. So that's kind of what we tend to focus on. But obviously marketing encompasses a lot of different things that we can't just cover every single, like it's very broad. Like just influencer marketing is a completely different zone that's huge, and it's a very untapped thing that a lot of sellers could definitely leverage, but it's not for everybody. Just like how maybe SEO or like ranking might not be exactly for your particular product. Maybe it's like doesn't have that much search volume, but it's a very gadgety product, so it could sell well if you do off Amazon advertising. Most Amazon sellers sell, I don't want to say boring products, but products that are very like vanilla-ish, where it's like, it's a spatula, it's a bottle, it's a XYZ, and it's like, it has a lot of search volume. Some of the products that sell very, very well, that are not that much search volume, are really gadgety products that are neat. Like you'll see it a lot in Pinterest if you ever go on that platform. You just kind of like all the pins that have like gadgety products that, again, people aren't necessarily searching for, but they find it neat enough to like purchase it from, like, let's say a Shopify or something like that. I know that was like a long kind of answer. It might not have really answered much. Okay, let's get into the meat of the conversation here. So footer flows, adding in footer flows to your ManyChat. So essentially there are kind of like, these are the 4 big bullet points here. And I just kind of cut it up like this because it's a little easier for myself. But basically, the first thing you want to do is set up your ManyChat account for success. Again, I'd go over this in a different webinar, so I won't be able to kind of go over that in this one. But that's just setting up like your kind of ManyChat, making sure your folders are like, organized properly, setting up certain flows there right off the bat, just to make sure that you have like some core flows that make sense to have in your account. The second thing is going to be installing a rebate automation template and then, editing that to match your product. And this is most of the time your rebate automation is where you add your footer flows. There are some use cases where you can just add footer flows to an example would be a sign up flow. You can add it to like ask for them to join a Facebook group at the tail end of them signing up. That's just a use case you could use footer flows for. But in most cases, I use it for rebate automation flows. So like my footer flows are usually found in my rebate automation flows. That's what I'm trying to say. So again, you need to have a good base understanding of how to automate or how to edit the rebate automation templates. And again, I will go over this in a different webinar, and then we will have links to kind of the recording as well as the Google Slides, so you can really understand how to edit these for your own uses. And then the third and fourth, which they're kind of more or less the same, is installing and then editing the footer flows that you want to be using for your case, right? So whatever rebate automation, or if you're using it for something else, like example sign-up flows, then you'll have that accessible to you. So you essentially install it, then you edit it / add it to your ManyChat flows that are pre-existing. I'm hoping that made sense. I know sometimes I don't explain things extremely well, but I'm hoping that this makes sense, and it will probably later down the line as we continue. So here is the ManyChat account setup, Google Slides, as well as the presentation. I will, at the end of the conversation, I'll give you guys access to this entire presentation, so you guys can actually just take a look at these links. I also have a Google document going over all of the past webinars, as well as the topic, how long it is, and so on, the level of importance. So you guys will have kind of access to this. But this is just, again, the first thing is you're going to want to make sure your account, your ManyChat account, is set up for success, meaning it's got the right things in place. So that way you're going to be able to run rebates long-term, short-term, and everything's properly managed. The next thing is making sure you understand the rebate automation templates. Now, there are a whole bunch of different rebate automation. We obviously have our version. There may, you could obviously customize, make your own version, or you could use somebody else's version. Again, there's a whole bunch in the marketplace. Obviously, we'd advise using ours because they're very easy to edit, and they're very complex in terms of like by complex, I mean they're easy to edit, but they're advanced enough to make a lot of sense for you. So a lot of maybe others, right? They might be a little bit more challenging to edit, but they might not necessarily offer you much more advanced features. It just makes it more of a headache for you guys to edit. I've seen a lot of flows, and again, not to bash anybody, but it's just like more difficult than it needs to be, in my opinion. So again, these are just kind of the links, right? There's like a full video. It's roughly about an hour, 50 minutes roughly, going over how to edit this to match your product. And it doesn't actually take an hour to 50 minutes to actually edit it. It's just I spend a lot of time talking about every single individual. I don't say every single individual node, but I spend a lot of time talking about most of the nodes in that flow and how they work and how to edit it to match your goals and so on. I would say probably takes me roughly 5 to 10 minutes at most to edit a rebate automation to match my product. So yeah, these are just the resources to go over that. This is a screenshot of what the rebate automation template looks like. It looks more confusing than what it really is. And again, this is just a very broad overview. But yeah, most of this
Hey, Tyler, I don't know if the audience can see right now. Your picture is a little bit bigger than the screen. If you can flip that around, that way we can see your.
Like this, is that maybe better, or did I do more or less the same thing?
And honestly, it might actually be my view. This may be, it may be me. Man, busy day. It may be me. Let's see. Actually, we've got everybody who can chat and say, can you all see the screen? Looks okay. So people are just gonna they're gonna have a nice little laugh at my expense. The flow is small. Can see the screen just fine. Can see.
Well, yeah, the flows. Yeah. Unfortunately, it is like a very big bird's eye view. I could have maybe tried zooming in a little bit more, but yeah, it looks more complicated than it is, guys. Believe me when I tell you I made these flows extremely simple to edit, where all you have to really do is make sure the bot fields are proper, and then make sure your API keys are connected properly, and then the flow is basically good to go. I would still advise going into Flow Builder and making sure the Seller.Tools API connections are proper, meaning like you click the action block and then you check to see, okay, it's live API key. Okay, perfect, good. And then you do that. And then there's obviously some small edits, like example, you can add on some, and again, I go over this in a different webinar, but you can add in, search, find, buy, or custom URL, or laundering your links, right? So there are some add-ons that you can obviously add in. And today we're going over footer flows, which is technically still an add-on, but it's just at usually the tail end, right? Like it would be more roughly around here, where you're adding in a side objective for the users / customers to come in and do. You wanted to say something, Troy?
No, I was just going to say thank you. Everybody was quick to help me out and respond. I think I've just been on too many Zoom meetings today. So I've had the personal, the screen share, and now watching your screen. I know that there is the ask for zooming in. I did want to mention, Tyler, and this is the spirit of each and every one of these calls, is that all the resources we cover, you make available for free. And we always want to make sure everybody knows where to get those resources, so you don't feel like, oh, I've got to scramble and I've got to make sense of like even this rebate automation flow. We have it completely for free and download ready. So we'll make sure, and I'm here to tackle any questions. Again, I know, Tyler, you do a great job of diving right in. But definitely let us know as we're walking through footer flows, covering any of the free resources. Shoot those questions. I'll promise I'll use Zoom correctly, and I know how to navigate that. But yeah, just wanted to mention that as we're taking along. That way, an hour is a long time to take up your time. But if we can give you a bunch of free resources, Tyler can drop his expertise, I can be here trying to answer and field any questions. We can deliver as much value. Almost, my goal would be, it feels like a lot of value in that period of time, because we want to definitely value your time and investment into a lot of these strategies. So I'm gonna get off my soapbox. I'm gonna use Zoom correctly now, but just so everybody knows, free resources, great info, and I'm in the Q&A. So if you've got any questions, definitely drop those as Tyler's educating us.
Yeah, and by the way, guys, a lot of these webinars, I do take the time to actually go in Flow Builder and actually take the time to edit with you. So like you can actually see what it looks like in terms of editing. So it's not just me talking about it and giving you the pieces of the puzzle. It's actually me assembling the puzzle with you. Obviously, I'm not going on your account per se, but you could just kind of copy paste what I'm doing more or less. Okay, guys, so the kind of next slide here is there are 4 different footer flows that I have as of right now. And I'm not gonna lie, these are the main ones I've used in the past, and I will probably continue to use because they're just really, really good. So the first one is refer a friend. This one's pretty standard. It's, after somebody either receives a rebate, or maybe after they've confirmed their product, or after they've confirmed that their order was made, you can ask them to refer a friend. So something like, hey, we're always looking for more product testers. Do you have anybody in mind that you would mind referring to us? Something like that. Right? I didn't memorize the scripts, but obviously it's around like that. And then there's a link, they can click it, or they can forward a card to somebody, or they can grab the ref URL and then paste it into somebody, or paste it to somebody's chat, and then like they would just click the ref, and then now you basically gathered a new contact that you wouldn't have not otherwise gotten. So this is a really good way to kind of have a little bit of a viral factor. Then the OTN capture. So this is really good in terms of like capturing people, I guess their OTN permissions. So you're basically able to message them in the future. Usually the way I capture this is I ask them, hey, would you be interested in future rebate giveaway offers? And then they'll click yes. And then it's like, okay. And then the little OTNR, which stands for one-time notification request. And essentially they'll click a little button that says notify me. And now you're able to message them at any given moment outside of that 24-hour window, only once though, which kind of sucks, but you can only message them at one time about whatever the future rebate giveaway offer. The cool thing is though, you can also get them to, like once you use it once, if they go through, let's say the other rebate automation flow, you can ask them again, hey, would you be interested in getting in the next feature? So they could click it again, and then you can notify them again and again, as long as they keep, you message them that OTN message, and then they sign back up into OTN again later down the line. So technically you can get away with messaging them infinitely if the cycle continues. The next thing is getting the user's SMS. So this just stands for phone number. So you're basically capturing that person's phone number so you can later on text message them anytime you want, literally as many times as you want as well. It just costs a little bit of pennies. One thing I would recommend when you do use SMS is you don't use any emojis. It tends to cost quite a bit more, which is a little silly, but I guess that's just how it works. So SMS is really, really powerful. I've used it quite a bit now, and it's really, really good way. The open rates are great. Click-through rates, I mean, if the offer's good, then they're great as well. So something that's really, really keen. I've even run what I would call SMS solo ads, where like you're messaging one page, right? And then, or you're messaging an audience on one page, right? Or SMS in this case, and then you're getting it to convert to the other page. And that's worked really, really well. So again, capturing phone numbers is really, really big. So you really want to try to get that, especially if you're building a list, because the leads become fairly useless if you don't have a way of messaging them down the line, because again, there's the whole 24-hour rule and so on. Okay, last one here is a Facebook page review. So this one's obviously useful for just to build more social proof on your Facebook page. You can also edit this flow to make it so instead of getting a Facebook page review, you can get them to join a Facebook group, which is obviously really useful because that's another way you can get a hold of them and build a community and so on. So these are the kind of 4 you have options of. My favorite 3 are kind of the first ones. The one I don't use as often, I'll say, rarely anyways, is the 4th one. But again, if you say, oh, I see the value in building a Facebook group, then by all means use that one. Or you want to build up social proof on your Facebook page, then this is a great one for you. So these are the 4 here. These are the links for it. I will basically be going over how to edit all of these inside your rebate automation flows pretty much right now. So I see a bit of questions here, so I'll answer those, and then we can go into the actual editing of the flow and so on. So could you go over how the 24-hour rule works and the implications for building it in your flow? So the 24-hour rule in just kind of a broad sense is that it makes it so users that interact with your page, right, you're able to message them promotional content, basically anything you want, really. Obviously, you have to be somewhat reasonable what you're messaging them, but you can message them promotional content like deals or discounts or rebate offers or whatever it is, right? But as soon as they're outside of the 24-hour rule, you cannot message them. So that makes them essentially useless after that 24-hour period, unless you have alternative methods into messaging them, which could be OTN, which could be SMS, email. You can get away with certain tags, right? So like post-purchase, right? Meaning you're messaging them about an offer that maybe has been shipped, right? That's one of the bypasses to the 24-hour rule. It's like messaging them the order status or messaging them about an event reminder or something along those lines. But again, those use cases are very kind of, thin. And I'd be very careful with using those tags because again, Facebook, if they see that it's used wrong, meaning they have an algorithm in place and they're kind of scanning all the messages going out. And if the algorithm picks up that like, oh, you're using it wrong, even though you might not necessarily be using it wrong, if they just pick up that you're using it wrong, they'll just suspend the page, which is obviously not ideal. So 24-hour rule, just in period, is like users that interact with the page, you can message them anything you want. But as soon as they're outside of that, it's very difficult to message them, at least in terms of Messenger. But again, you have ways of going around that with SMS and email, and OTN is a good one as well. Okay, so let's see. What is the best way to get reviews with insert card strategies? This is advice. Okay, so I think insert cards is actually something that we do plan on talking about at some point. Like it's more of a post-purchase strategy is what we call it. But the best way is very product dependent. Okay, so I don't think there is like a best way of doing it. I know that the ones that offer a free gift work really, really well in terms of like getting a lot of users in. But I have some, like this one here, I've actually scratched out. Let me know if you guys could see it a little bit. So it's like a bottle, right? And I helped build this one out a little bit, but basically it's just a free, I can't see the camera. So it's a free little ebook, right? And essentially with that ebook, you were able to, well, what I do within that funnel is like, it goes into a ManyChat flow, it asks for the email, then with that provided email, it sends them an email with the ebook that's like just a PDF, and then the users are able to download it and see what's up with the ebook. And then later down the line, it asks for a review, and we have a pretty good, review ratio to that. So that's a really good strategy, right? And it's technically free in a way. Obviously, you have to pay for like maybe an autoresponder and the emails going out, but more or less free. So that's a really good way of doing it. There's also warranty signups, right? That's another good way. The free gift is a great way. And then if you really want, and this is something that's definitely advised if you can get very creative, meaning you could do buy X, get one free, right? So this is really good for consumable products. Obviously not that good for like a spatula, for example, because nobody's going to need 10 spatulas. And then another kind of way you could do this is like, sign up and join our giveaway, right? And we announce a winner every month. And then the way it works is it could go to a ManyChat flow, and that tells them to join the Facebook group where you announce the winner. There are like a massive amount of strategies you can do. You just have to think of the best one that would most appropriate for the product. So again, if the product is consumable, you can maybe be a little bit more strategic in terms of like trying to get them to purchase maybe more products, because like hopefully it's a customer that has longevity and not just like a one-time purchase. So you really have to think about what's best for the product, and then what would entice the users the most without breaking the bank. Obviously, people don't necessarily love the idea of giving a free product because that costs money. I'm hoping I answered that one right. Next one. Troy, yeah, you're.
Well, I think too, there was just a follow-up question on that. So if I can just add, because I just saw this come in with respect to insert, is there an AMZ TOS thing we should be concerned with? It's a great question, a great point. So there's two things I would add when it comes to the review request aspect. Is obviously if you're delivering value through your ManyChat flow, you're doing so in an automated way post-purchase. That's a great that's a big step in the right direction for receiving positive feedback, right? If you get something that is more valuable, it's strengthens your likelihood of welcoming positive feedback. So there's two ways that you want to think about following up with your customer to facilitate that feedback. There's the TOS compliant email that we can automatically send through ManyChat that Seller.Tools facilitates. And actually, I'll just drop a quick link in the chat, the Zoom chat, you guys can take a look at. It highlights this integration to where all we do in ManyChat is say, this is a good time to trigger that review request. And then one of the things that we love to do, and you may or may not have heard Tyler and I mention this, is we use that TOS compliant review request so that's in the customer's inbox and it comes from Amazon, doesn't come from us. So it's both TOS compliant and it comes from a high authority source in the form of Amazon. But then we can use text messages, SMS to follow up, and knowing we get insane open rates with that, we essentially just use that great open rate and say, hey, can you, did you receive Amazon's request for feedback? We just wanted to follow up and make sure you received it. And so that gives them a bit of an itch to scratch, knowing they've got an email sitting in their inbox direct from Amazon, TOS compliant, fully automated. So it checks all those boxes, very safe, very sort of elegant, as I like to put it, way of marrying all those things together. TOS compliant review request, really great open rates, fully automated solution. And then that way it removes even the slightest concern of how we're asking for that review within ManyChat itself, how the 24-hour rule, all the things that you're worried about when it comes to well-timed review request, we just pull that out of the equation. So definitely check out that video. I dropped it in the Zoom chat so you can take a look at how it's incorporated. It's in all the free flows that you can access now. So it's already part of the strategy that you can implement right away. But that's why it's kind of a level up is that you're not just asking for using language in the flows itself to ask for reviews.
Okay, awesome. So we did skip over this question, but I'm going to go cover it right now. So this queue has more variables than a 10-step flow. I'm not 100% sure exactly what that kind of means, but how many members until your internal group or until your internal giveaway group becomes a bona fide ranking asset? So it really does depend on how engaged those users are with you. But I would say you can have like about 1,000 leads in your ManyChat account, and those that could be a really good like kind of ranking asset, especially if they're on the more engaged and you actually have ways to messaging them. Obviously, if you have 1,000 leads, you can't message; they're useless. But if you have 1,000 text messages or members, and you're able to message them, then of course it becomes a massive asset. So you don't have to have a massive list. I know people think like, oh man, I gotta have like a couple thousand, or I gotta have even just a couple hundred. I mean, that's a good list right there. Again, it depends if you're able to message them. So that's why these footer flows very important because they're going to be able to enable you to message them, and they won't just be useless leads. I've literally been in accounts, and I'm not kidding, guys. I've been in accounts that have literally 10,000 plus, ManyChat leads, more than that, and we can't message them. So it's like, oh well, it's they're useless. They're basically useless. I mean, you could run a paid message and try to get them, but I mean, now you're paying for it again, anyways. So it's just like it sucks. So big thing is it's not really the size of the list that matters. It's like, can you reach them and are they engaged with you? That's the big metrics that is more important than the size. Okay. So the next one, Seller.Tools request. Can you use this even if you're not running rebates? Yeah, you can. Troy, you want to go on that one?
No, yeah, you're spot on. You can. You have the option of using it in the app where it's sort of set it and forget it, where you just enable that feature and then it's running in the background. Or you can use it in ManyChat. And some people use the ManyChat option as almost like an insurance policy where they'll have it configured still. They'll still ask Amazon, because that's what we do at Seller.Tools is we actually, through the API, we say, hey, Amazon, is this order ID eligible to receive a review request? And we'll sort of constantly check. We'll kind of be at Amazon's door, depending on the frequency that you have those checks in place, and see, hey, can we send a request? Can we send a request? So there are ways that you can use both just to make sure that you're never missing out, because it's a 0-1. If you don't ask for that review request within the window of time that Amazon gives you, that door is closed. That TOS compliant way of capturing reviews is no longer there.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so this question is an interesting one. So some software companies are coming up with some, called magic links claiming huge increases in ranking. Which URL would you recommend search find by? So definitely the URL structures matter. But in terms of like search find by, you don't really need to have like a crazy fancy link. The way that we have kind of our search find by plumbed in is where it's like it tells them, okay, this is the keyword, type this in Amazon, and it gives them a link to Google, and then from Google they'll type in Amazon hopefully, and then they'll go on Amazon, or they'll click on their app, right? They're most likely on their phone, so they'll click their app and then they'll type in the keyword. So in that sense, we're not actually using a link for them to go to Amazon, right? So there's no technical connection between ManyChat and Amazon when you're doing search find by in respect to how we have it set up in our flows. That being said, there are definitely like URLs with different structures that will definitely benefit you in terms of ranking weight. Do you want to add anything to that, Troy? Or
no, I would just add to your link laundering when it comes to what they're trying to achieve with any kind of link or two-step is the potential problem with that. And we see this time and time again with two-step URLs is anytime you're still creating an A to B. So if these links are still very much the same and driving to the same source, that constant reinforcement to Amazon is not conducive, especially if a service is using the same exact flow for the same attack link. Essentially, they're giving Amazon everything that it can catch up on, detect, and dilute. And that's really what we want to avoid with ManyChat, because we lose the diversity of traffic, the diversity of signals, the diversity of links that we can launder, hence that strategy, because that looks perceivably organic. We want to tell Amazon there's people coming from 3 or 4 different sources, different ways they're searching, different keywords that are relevant to us that they're searching. And that's how you get evergreen ranking, to where some of these things may work and they feel like a flash in the pan. And then they get diluted because Amazon sees, wait, you're taking a customer through the same exact journey. They're sending us in the same exact link. We're going to give you a short-term benefit. Are you going to maintain rank? That's an open question. And then is this ranking impact going to be diluted because it's so predictable? So that's really some of the things that we think about when we develop features and flows is how do we add in the variety to where if you really step away from it, we sort of create this perfect, I say perceivably, but it is truly, it looks organic because it's a variety of sources, a variety of signals, multiple inputs that Amazon's receiving for this buyer intent based on keywords that are important to us.
100%. So just to kind of reference what Troy's talking about is link laundering, which is a webinar we did go into in the past. And you will have access to this Google document. I'll give you guys access to this at the end, as well as, multiple ranking methods. So making it so there's a variety of different ranking methods and you're not just doing one thing at a time. You're basically making it so certain traffic goes for, like, let's say search find by, and search traffic. Some certain traffic will maybe do, custom link, or maybe it'll be, link laundering or so on. So you can have like a variety of different ways that people are finding your listing. Okay, so I think we've answered that one. Let's see. So where can we find more details on the 24-hour rule? ManyChat's got a lot of good resources in terms of that. Facebook also has their kind of rules, so you can either easily do like a Google search, you know, Messenger 24-hour rule, and then there'll be a whole bunch of different kind of blog articles as well as Facebook posting in their kind of terms of service. And then in terms of like, can you, like if somebody re-interacts with your page, does it open up the 24-hour rule? And that the answer is yes. So if they do re-interact with your page, right, and you didn't message them before, it does reopen that 24-hour window. So theoretically, and I've seen this with some people, and I don't necessarily recommend it because you're on the mercy of the users. You could tell them, hey, follow up with us, and then we'll follow up with you. Meaning like you can say like, message us 7 days from now, and then we'll ask about, we'll ask you to leave a review after you follow up with us. I've seen that before. Again, I wouldn't recommend that, but you can theoretically do that and be P2S compliant in that regards. Okay, I believe we've answered it all. Yeah, Troy just actually left a resource to the 24-hour rule, right? The blog article that I was mentioning. Do you want
Excellent.
to add something to that, Troy?
No, I'm ready to get into this, man. Refer
Yeah,
a friend.
I know,
I'm
right?
looking for it because these are the ones that, when we talk about that VIP list, that sounds all, I think people are always intimidated by. When you can do so, when you can build a VIP list, which is immensely important because then you can reliably rank and more easily capture reviews. But when you can have the refer a friend, we actually supported a client that is, they're pushing us to try to move 1,000 units a month for each individual SKU, and they're doing a lot of volume, and they love something like this because this is a way in which they can grow their VIP list organically. When we talk about cost per opt-in, how do you have people refer people, which strengthens the brand loyalty? There's a bunch of benefits that are with that. But yeah, I'm excited to dive into these footer flows.
Yeah, and again, these are for Messenger, guys, but it wouldn't be that difficult to convert this into, say, Instagram, which in my opinion has more of a viral factor than Messenger. But anyways, so we're going to go into kind of the footer flows. Now, as you saw, there was 4. I've installed them all and I put them in this folder just to keep things very organized for myself. I'm not going to go through the installation process with you guys because it's extremely simple. You just like click the link, you pick your page, and then you hit install, and then bam, it's in your ManyChat account, and it'll be under a flow or a folder, and then inside the folder will be the flow based on whatever one you installed. That'll be the flow that's there. So these are all the flows. The one that's getting SMS, there's actually 3 flows in total. I've just cut it up into smaller slices to make it a little easier because this is the one you actually need. These 2 are just, they're there to essentially grab the phone number and then send them a text message, confirming that they've received a said text message. They can click a little button. So it's just a good way to confirm that, hey, this person actually got the right phone number. So it's like a neat little way to confirm that they're getting messages from you. The refer a friend is just 1 flow. The page review, 1 flow. OTN's a 1 flow. And I also installed the rebate automation flow just to kind of give you guys context into how to plumb this into your rebate automation flows. So let's go into this. I'm going to essentially duplicate the tabs because it's always nice to have 2 tabs here when you're doing kind of copying from one flow to another flow. So this is our rebate automation flow. And again, you guys could use whatever version you want. I just did the multiple or options version here just because this is my favorite one. Because it gives the users/customers the option to pick what gift card they want to pick. But anyway, so let's carry on. So when you're in the flow, you'll hit edit flow. And I know that this does look a little overwhelming, especially when you're looking at it like a bird's eye view. But the footer flows are going to be added at the tail end. So there's 2 points. I believe it's going to be right here, and then right here you can add your footer flows. So just keep in mind that the footer flows are things that you add after they've completed the main objective. So an example of this would be, that's right, actually right over here. So right here, guys, you'll see that this is right after. So let me just give you a little context on what this is. So they give their order number right here, and then it goes through multiple different checks. I know this is some complicated stuff, but basically it just checks to make sure, has the order number been, is it a real order number, and what's the status of said order number? And then did they order the proper product, right? So it confirms to make sure, okay, they ordered the right product. They haven't done this before. And then it goes in, gives them pending rebate to make sure that they're not getting more than one rebate for said offer. And basically right here is like, okay, we've just confirmed their order number, right? This is the message they're getting right after they've given their order number. They don't see all this logic, by the way, guys, like all this stuff, they don't see this. Like this is all just like, doesn't happen to them, right? But it does happen for us. So once they get this message, or instead of getting this message, we can give them something different, meaning we can ask them to do a side objective. And this is where the footer flows come in handy. So I'm going to go over my favorite one first, which is the OTN one. I think it's very underutilized. And the OTN flow is very simple, guys. This is what it looks like. It's only one flow long, and this is the entire gist of it. The way I structure my flows, guys, I make it so there are comments inside every kind of flow. There's instructions, optional steps, and then notes. Unfortunately, there's no notes in this one, but instructions is something you need to do. Optional step is something you have the option to do. And then a note is just something for you to consider. So something for you to like, oh, this is what's happening. Okay, cool. So let's go into editing. So as you can see, there's only one instruction step. This is something I need to do. So if I want to use this flow, I need to do this. So like we would take the time to read it. I already know what it's going to say. It's going to say, okay, you need to connect this to this message and then right after this message. So what I'm going to do to actually edit this in is I need to copy all of this. So I'm going to go, I click Shift and then I click and drag. So that way I'm basically capturing all these nodes at once. So let me just go over that one more time. So you just essentially hold Shift and then you'll just click, right, or left click, and then you just drag your mouse and then you select everything that you need. You don't need all of this. You just need the nodes here that are useful. The comments here aren't necessary, but again, if you want, you can add them in. So I copied all that. So now I hit Control C and I go into the flow, the template that I actually want to paste it into, which is right here. And then I would just hit Control F, or not F, Control V. Sorry about that. Make sure that you've already clicked Edit Flow, by the way, because if you don't hit Edit, then it won't paste it in. So you have to hit Edit. I've already done that previously, so that's why it worked. So now what I'm going to do here to plumb this in is I'm just going to grab kind of the section right here, and instead of doing it this message, I'll do it this message. And the messages, you can actually kind of read it a little bit. I can zoom in just say they're actually very similar. They're just almost identical. The only difference is at the end here, it asks if they'd like to be notified of future rebate offers. And then they click a little button, and then that little button leads to an OTNR, which is just one-time notification request. And then they click little notify me, and then bam, now they're captured inside kind of OTN, meaning like you can message them outside of the 24-hour rule. And then that's it for this kind of automation. But one thing that you need to do, this is absolutely necessary. You need to also plumb this little next step going over here. Okay, so don't forget that little bit there. It actually says that in the notes here. And again, if you read the notes, you'll be able to kind of follow along. Obviously, this video might be more helpful than the notes because it might be a little confusing to read off these notes. But the two things you need to do is make sure that, instead of getting this message, they're going to get this message, and make sure that the flow continues over here, because this is going to make sure that they're going to get their rebate after all. Because if you were not to have this connection, then essentially they would never go through kind of the looping process to make sure that once their order is shipped, they get the rebate off. So obviously that's important that they're going to get their rebate, because you're going to have some very unhappy customers if they don't. So the next step you would do is you would hit publish, and that's it for kind of the OTN add-on flow or the footer flow. Now you may have noticed there's a message right here saying it's an optional step. After you ask them for their OTN, you can ask them, hey, would you like to be notified of your rebate status? You can word this a little bit differently if you'd really like to, but this is what I've been doing and it's worked extremely well for me. But essentially what you're doing is you're saying, like, after they've, signed up, which I would say you have like a 98%, maybe 95% chance that they're going to click, yeah, sign me up to get more notifications, right? It's a really high opt-in rate. And then you ask them, hey, would you like to be notified of your rebate status? Or like when the order's been shipped, more or less, right? I believe that's what the messages say. Obviously I'll have to look, but they'll ask that. And I would say you get about 85 to 80% of those individuals will actually click that and then give you their phone number. So you have a very, very high likeliness of getting their phone number is what I'm trying to say. So let's go into the SMS flow, which is again, like kind of my second one. Once you've edited the, once you have this footer flow here, you basically don't need to do anything with it. Like I know it's got this little orange saying like, oh, you we're editing this, you don't need to worry about this. Once it's inside your main flow, like this is the whole purpose of it, is like now we have it here. You don't technically need this. You could technically, delete the flow. Not really advised, because you might as well just keep it for keeping its sake in case you want to put that into another template later down the line. So let's go into SMS. So this one right here, as you can see, there's a little astromeric's, which signifies that this is something you need to edit. The other two right here, you don't need to do anything for. So let's go into this. So it does look a little bit more confusing than the OTN one, because you have kind of two options here. You can essentially ask like, hey, would you, so this one here is meant to be tied up to essentially, instead of OTN, you would just say, hey, would you like to get your order status via text message? Let me just read it a little bit here so I could give you guys. So it says, thank you, we verified your order, blah, 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 blah. Okay, once it's been shipped, we'll give you your rebate. Would you like to be notified via text message about your rebate? And then they'll usually click yes. Now, what you can do here, instead of using this message right here and plumbing it in right over here, right? Seeing as if we already used the OTN one, we could say, okay, well, what I'll do is I'll plumb it in right here after they get the kind of thank you message for signing up to OTN. So what you do is you'd hit edit on the SMS one. And what you're going to do is you just need this little message block here. Okay, so we'll copy that. And again, if you wanted to just use text message and you don't care about OTN, then you could just plumb this, like you could just, what we did with the other one, you just go like this, shift, click, drag, copy, paste over here, and then plumb it in like that. So it would be very simple. But in our case, we're going to do OTN and we're going to do the SMS, which is what I usually do all the time. So what I'll do is here, right here, where it gives you that thank you message, we're just going to do enter here. I'm going to paste that in. So all I did was just, highlight this, copy, paste it into my main flow. And then I'm going to create a button. And again, you can have yours is whatever you'd like. I'm just going to make sure with a little apostrophe there. And then that'll be that. And then what I'll do is I'm just going to copy this flow. So what you could do is you just click it, Control C, go back into the right template, Control V. And I'll just put it right below it and I'll connect the two just like that. And that's it. Now I have kind of SMS enabled here. But now we have seeing as if we let them know, hey, we're going to ask them if they want to get notified via the rebate status via text message. We actually have to plumb that part in the back end over here, right? We can't just ask for it and then not deliver it. So that's where this additional kind of logic here comes into play. So that's why there's this step right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift click, drag it all. Drag it all like this. Sometimes that'll happen if you click this and then you go shift click, it'll actually select everything. So what I do to just avoid that is I click on the sandbox here, anywhere in the sandbox, and then I'll do it again. So I'll hit shift click, drag it all, copy, right, Control C, and then I will paste that roughly, I'm going to say probably down here. So right over here. Now, the big reasoning why I'm doing this is because I want to make it so it has a little bit more logic here. So this is going to get a little confusing, a little fast. I'm going to do my best to explain it the best I can. But essentially, you're making it so you're able to, the bot is able to smartly detect the people that have signed up for SMS and the people that haven't. And the people that have signed up for it will get a text message, and the people that have not will get just a regular message via Messenger. And we do use the post-purchase tag, which is like one of the only ways we use it. And the post-purchase tag, I believe, is, it's being a little laggy here. It's right over. Come on, it's not. It's being a little slow. Let me refresh the page here. It just seems to be a little glitchy here, which does happen when you have more than one ManyChat tab, especially if the flows are massive, which this one does qualify as a fairly large flow. Right here, this is where it is right here. See the post-purchase. So if I was to zoom in just a little bit more, you'll see that there's like a little, almost like a tag here, purchase tag. Normally, the normal messages have a little funnel here. This means that it's a post-purchase, which is, we do actually fall under the rules here. So we are TOS compliant by using this. It's just there are not many use cases for that post-purchase, and I would highly advise you do not use it unless you really understand the rules, because you can get in a lot of trouble using those. Okay, so I need to push it over there. So these flows here, let me just Oops. Okay, so let me know, Troy, if I'm doing a terrible job of explaining it.
No,
I
you're
could.
good. You're
Okay.
good. And while you're bringing that over, just a reminder, both of these things, both flows are two free resources. So I don't want people thinking, oh, I've got to recreate this. I've got to,
Mhm.
it is mostly just making sure that we're clarifying. And I think you're doing a good job, Tyler, of where we place this in each flow that you have now. And it's just copy paste over, bringing in that next, as you're doing now, and hopefully ManyChat as your screen sharing is feeling like it's
Well,
going to catch up.
yeah, no, it's good. It's good. I just want to make sure like I describe what I'm doing here. So I've essentially, so all I've done, guys, is I copy pasted this. This belongs right around here. And the reason why there's two different messages is because this one here is for the people that have actually their order's been shipped and they're not on the blacklist. And then for the people that are on the blacklist, like maybe they tried scamming you or something along those lines, then they'll get this message right here. So that's why there's two right here. So what you need to do is you need to plumb this in so it kind of matches. So this red one right here goes to the top one over here. And this green one over here goes to this green one over there. And now this, this red one over here goes over here. Right? And then this red one over here goes over here. I know that was a lot. So again, if you guys do, like, this will be recorded. So if you guys need to slow this down a little bit, you definitely can. And what I would advise too is you would make it so this flow right here, first you have to delete this right here. This part is not useful for you at all. Delete this part right over here. What the reason why you have a link there is because it's not like Messenger where you could just, you're putting a button straight to Messenger. You're putting a link to essentially go to the next step in your flow, which in this case will be to actually get the gift card. And this one here, instead of getting the gift card, they're going to be messaging the support team right over here. I'm going to try to reiterate that a little bit. I know that was like really like, what the hell did he just do? Um, also, another thing I would recommend is you actually message them within Messenger as well. So you're giving a text message and a messenger. So you continue the conversation like this, and then you could continue it like this. So let me reiterate everything I've did there. I know this is not easy to understand, especially this is more complex of plumbing in than normal. So by default, what happens here is after they go through this condition right here, it checks to see if they're on the blacklist. The only reason why they would technically be on the blacklist is if they did something wrong. Maybe they canceled their order, they're trying to get more than one rebate for the same offer. That's like the main thing is are they trying to get another rebate for the same offer as somebody else? And that's the only time they would technically be on this blacklist right here. But it checks to see if they're on there. And based on that, if they haven't, then they get this message right here. Okay, your order's been shipped. You're ready for your rebate offer. If they are on the blacklist, they'll get this blacklist message. So what you're doing here instead is you're saying, okay, they're now going to go through this filter down here to see, are those individuals asking to be notified via text message, right? This is the condition here. And if yes, then you give them a text message. If no, then you give them a normal, regular message through Messenger. Okay, so that's what this condition does. And then same with this one. This is just a blacklist one. So it says, okay, what are their preferences in messaging? And then after the text message, you need to make sure that the link that's right here, claim your rebate link, is tied to your kind of ManyChat flow right here to kind of, check your wallet, check the minimum balance, and then, issue the gift card whatever their preference was. And then the reason why I say continue to next step here is so you do give them that notification via Messenger. So like it gives them a text message and the notification via Messenger. You don't necessarily need to do that. I just wanted to show you that you can do that, so that way they're getting best of both worlds. So like you're really making sure that they get that message. And that's how I plumbed it in. I know that this process is a little confusing, but again, this is recorded. So if you guys do need to take a little bit more time into like just diving in how this works, unfortunately, I wasn't able to make this a super elegantly easy way to do it. It's just, there's just a lot of lines going everywhere, and that's how it works. Once you make your changes, guys, though, make sure you publish them so that way they're good to go. So I'm just going to publish mine. Okay, so that is it for the SMS. You know, you got two parts to it. You got the first part, which is, you know, asking them, you know, do you want to get notified via text message? And again, you don't necessarily need to do that this way. You can ask them like, hey, would you like to be notified of future offers via text message? And then they could say yes. And then bam, now you're going to be capturing their phone number and then giving them a message like that. And then you don't need to worry about this back end part. The way I use it is I always ask them like, hey, would you like to be notified of your rebate offer or your rebate status? And I get a very high opt-in rate like that. But you don't have to necessarily use it like that. So just bear that in mind. The other two flows for the kind of text message side of things is something you do not need to edit, but feel free to edit it if you do. I'm just going to go over them very quickly because I know we're kind of running on an hour already, and I'll try to cover the kind of last two footer flows here. So capturing their SMS, guys, is really, really simple. Again, you don't have to edit the scripts at all, but if you want to, you can. So at first it checks to see, are they already opted in? If they are, then they'll get this like, oh, you know, you're opted in, and then it gives them that tag that you're cross-referencing to make sure that that's what they want to get notified via their rebate notified via text message. The other kind of portion here, if they don't already have SMS, which is most likely the case, what you can do is you can say, okay, what's their phone number? You're asking for the phone number. Then you confirm, okay, is this your phone number, right? It shows them the phone number and they say yes. And then it confirms they agree with the policies. Now, the reason why this kind of legal jargon is in here in the first place is because there are some kind of crackdowns, especially in the United States, where like you can't just, you know, get the people's phone number and then start text messaging them all this stuff. So you're trying to make sure that you're being legally compliant with those kind of rules that are in place. So you're getting a kind of, yes, I want to receive promotional content from page name. So that's why I have this here. Again, you could technically delete it and like probably nothing would happen, but I have it here just to make sure that you guys are being compliant with that as well. So then the next thing it does, it signs them up to SMS. It gives them a little tag here, and then it sends them a text message. And I'll go into this flow real soon. And then it just goes over this like troubleshooting if they ever have a problem, if they didn't get this text message right here, because it asks them to confirm their phone number. So the confirming phone number is one flow long, or like basically 2 nodes long. It's really short. It just sends them a phone number, gives them a link that they can click saying like they can confirm the phone number. Then once they click that little link, they get these two tags. One tag's removed, one tag's added. The added tag is like the confirmation that SMS is working. Then it removes click to leave phone number. And then it lets them know like, hey, you can add us to your contacts. You know, thanks for converting phone number. And that's it for the confirmation phone number. I know some people, well, I've seen it in the past where they'll like give you a special like order and or a number, and then you have to confirm that number, and that's how they go about confirming the SMS. I like this way better because it's super easy from the user's perspective. They don't have to like type in a random number. They just click a link and then bam, now it's like the connection has been made. Okay, that's it for SMS. Let's go into, I guess, referring a friend. So this one here, I actually love to do it right after you've given a rebate. And I remember covering this one in a webinar. I believe it was the sign up flows webinar. But essentially refer a friend, guys, is very simple. You're just like asking them like, hey, would you know, we want to refer a friend. So let me get into the flow again. Like you see the instructions here and you need to do certain steps here in order to edit this flow properly. But the first thing you want to do is you'll see that there's kind of an action it goes into, and then based on that action, it gives them a certain message. So because the reason why I have this here is because there are certain places the traffic might be coming from, the referee traffic coming from. I hope I said that right, but basically some individuals might be getting this flow right after they've been rebated. Some of them might be getting this flow right after they've signed up to your rebate program. So based on where they're coming from, you want to give them a customized message to match where they're coming from. So that's why I have this condition right here. And the way you would make sure that this works well for you is you have an action block before sending them to this flow. Now, let me show you what I mean by this. So usually I like to have this right around here. So what I'll do, guys, in my kind of rebate giveaway flows is I'll have all of the, essentially, they've claimed their rebate. I'll have this, let's say, on a timer. And you can use, I usually do, I think it's like 5 hours or 23 hours. I'm just going to do 23 hours in this case. And the reason why I do 23 is just to stay within that 24-hour window period. So that way I know INTO is compliant. And what I'll do is I'm going to connect all of our essentially kind of messenger notifications. So like right here. Let me see if I can do it properly. I'll add it right here. So essentially I'm adding this over here because I want to, I'm going to put it right over here, right here. I'm adding all of the messages that they get for their rebate message, right? Like, oh, you've received your PayPal rebate, right? This is the PayPal message. I believe the next one's Venmo. And then the next one after that, I believe is, I think it's Pick a Reward, I believe. I could be wrong. Or it's probably Amazon actually. Yeah, so this one is Amazon. So I'm connecting all of this to this time delay. Now, why I'm connecting it to a time delay is because I'm going to send them the rebate flow or the refer a friend flow after this time delay. The first thing I'm going to do though, before sending them straight to the flow, right, is I'm going to make an action that's going to change the custom field to match what message they're going to get from the refer a friend flow. So what you do is you click action, then you hit set custom field. And I don't necessarily memorize the custom field every time. So what I do is I just open up the refer a friend flow in a different tab and I'll copy the custom field, or at least a portion of it. I'll paste it here and then you can see the custom field comes up. And now we need to give it a value. So the value I want to give it is rebate giveaway. And the reason why I give it rebate giveaway is because I want them to receive this message right here saying, thanks for participating in our rebate giveaway. We've received your, some great feedback. We're still looking for more product testers, blah, 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 blah. Refer a friend. So I'm going to say rebate giveaway. Okay. And then the next thing I want to do is actually send them to the flow here. So start flow. And then we're going to pick the refer a friend flow. So as you can see, this one is a little bit different than say the other ones, where the other ones you actually needed to essentially bring the flow inside of it, which you could technically do here, but this is the way I do it, where I just put in a time delay. You don't necessarily need to have a time delay. You could also have a button here saying like, hey, if you have a friend in mind, refer them, and then you can have a button here. How you decide to do it is really, whatever you want to do. And then you have an action here changing what message they're going to get once they go into this flow. And then you'd hit publish. One thing I will advise though, once you take this to like next step right here, what's going to happen here is that you're inevitably disconnecting this review request. And obviously, if you want to ask for, like, if you want to get a review request going, then you would want to do. So what I'd do is I'd connect this like this. So what's going to happen here logically is that it's going to wait 23 hours before sending this kind of flow. And as soon as it sends this flow, it's going to then go back into your review request right over here. So just bear that in mind that is what's happening logically here. And then we'd hit publish. Okay, so that is it for kind of review requests, or not review requests, but that is it for refer a friend. We have one last one that I can go over here, and that is the Facebook page review right here. So this one here, guys, is really, really, really simple. It's just like, OTN. And theoretically, you can add this instead of asking for a, asking to refer a friend, you can add this one in essentially at the same spot. So that's what I'm going to do in this case. So let me just go into my rebate automation flow. We'll hit edit. Yeah, I'm sorry for making this like super complex, but I'm hoping that you guys are able to follow along the madness that I'm doing here. So instead of this one, right, like we said, we're going to ask them to leave a Facebook review instead, right? Because we're like, you know what? We don't need extra people. We need Facebook page reviews. So what we'll do here is I'll just have the same idea where it's like add a time delay, or you could be even fancier. How about this? We'll be fancy. We'll have all of them in one flow. We're going to add a randomizer. So we're going to ask 50% of the people, I'm going to ask for them to review the Facebook page, and the other 50%, I'm going to ask them to refer a friend. So that's, now we have all of them in. One thing you need to do with this flow though, and I didn't go into detail here, but you need to edit this link to match your kind of Facebook page review link, right? So like if you go on the Facebook page, you'll see that there's like a review tab. You'd click that review tab and then you'd grab the URL that's right up there, and then you'd replace it right here. And with refer a friend, I didn't go over this in enough detail, unfortunately here. I'm in a little bit of a rush. You also need to make it so the link that you're referring the friend to is linked to your sign up flow. And I do believe that in my sign up flow, I go over this in a bit more detail on like how to set this up perfectly, but I'm just going to give you a little bit of a gist here. So essentially there's a sign up link, right? Or a like refer a friend link that you get when you install this template. And this link right here is a bot field. So you need to change the bot field value to match your sign up flow. And your sign up flow is really just, let me go over it. It's this kind of sign up to rebate program. And again, this is a free template you can install. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be grabbing the link right here. So let me just find it. It's right here. So here's the link right here. Usually I make a custom link, but in this case, I'm just going to make my job a little easier. You could just grab this link right here. Usually what I'll do is I'll actually create my own link so that way I know all the referee traffic coming from a certain URL. But in this case, I'm just going to grab this ref URL and then put it inside my my bot field that I was talking about for the refer a friend right here. So like you'll see, let me just show you guys. Sorry for going back and forth like a madman, but I'm trying to make this somewhat reasonable in time. So see how it says refer a friend share link? This is a bot field. So what we need to do is we need to go to the settings and then grab this link and put that in there. So that way, when they do refer a friend, that's the link that they're referring them to, which is your signup flow. And you need to edit your signup flow. And again, if you want more instructions on how to edit the signup flow, we do have a webinar, and I'll go into kind of the documents right after this. So we had to go into settings, then into fields, then into bot fields, and then I like to hit Control F, and then I'll type in share. Whoops, where's my Control F? I don't even see Control F. Share. Okay, here it is right here. So refer a friend share link, and then see how it says not set. We'll just paste in the ref URL, and now we're good to go. Now it's referring them to the signup flow. Okay, so this is where we can find kind of the beta access templates right here. As you can see, all the footer flows are right here. So I'm going to give you guys this inside the chat. And sorry for like kind of making this a little crazy and hectic, guys. I know I try to explain things as best I can. I'm hoping that this all made sense. And here, guys, is also a link to kind of all the past webinars. So if you do want more idea of how to actually make the signup flows, right? This is one of the past webinars right here, where I go into kind of a lot of detail on how to set up the signup flows, what they are, how to use them, so on. So I'll give you guys access to this entire document so you guys can have essentially access to all the past webinars. So let me just. Okay, so this one's to hosts and panelists. I always make that mistake. So everyone. Okay, there we go. And then let me just copy the other link that I gave previously as well. I highly advise that you guys do most likely bookmark these two resources. So bookmark, all the kind of essentially webinar calls, right? So this is where I'm going to be putting all of them, as well as all the beta access. This will most likely flows will end up here before they end up on the website. But they will end up on the website at some given point in time. Okay, Troy, do you want to come in and say anything? I know I rambled off for a long time.
No, well, we spent a lot of time with questions. That's good. I like that we're interactive with this time, because that dives into exactly what people are wanting to know and how we can help and support. So all good from my perspective. One thing I'm going to drop in here, slightly unrelated, is our free Chrome extension, because I've been getting more questions about it, finding people sort of stumbling upon it organically. But I would love for more people to know, because we are building probably the best Chrome extension for Amazon sellers. And since we're making it free, we're sort of lopsided in that value. And for those that have kind of stuck around to the very end, just a bit of a teaser. We are working on a product research validator tool through our Chrome extension. It is what we want. We don't use really any other research tools. So it's kind of like our team saying, hey, if we were to use a product research tool, what would we want? How would we approach it? What's an elevated way? How do we do it differently? So we're not doing it like everybody else. And so definitely take advantage of it. And feel free to share. It's a totally free resource, whether it's listing quality score, the ticker, total Amazon traffic, brand analytics data, exclusive metrics. There's like a dozen things that you can get in that Chrome extension. So make sure you dive into that. So yeah, that's my little tangent. Thank you, Tyler, for tackling all the footer flows though. I think it was great. We only went a little long because we were, like I said, you were answering some questions. So I think
Yeah.
all in all, we
Yeah, I think we hit it. I see that there's
Yeah.
a couple questions here, so I just want to get to those, and I think we're going to probably end things very shortly. So if you guys have questions, make sure you put them in right now. So when doing internal giveaways, do you use omni-channel broadcasting? I would say most of the time I do. Well, actually, no. I would say it depends, kind of on the client's list and so on. But I would say most of the time I'm using OTN. But I do use text message sometimes too. So it really does depend. But I'll say I'm mixed, but I do use OTN. When I do it, they never send through, and I have OTN, SMS, and email opt-ins. Okay, so that's odd. That what might happen there, and this does happen to me sometimes. So let me actually show you an example here of why that could be a thing. Sometimes what will happen is wrong flow, wrong flow. So what will happen is that if your logic doesn't make sense, so it'll only send to one channel. So let me just give you an example. So let's say, for example, text message. The reason why you have to have all these conditions and it has to be all so complicated is because if you're not able to send them a text message and you send them a text message, right? Like logically, like, oh, it should send them a text message, but they're not enabled or they're not able to receive text messages, then this little go to next step won't work. Like it won't go to the next step, which is obviously a big problem. So if you have a condition where like it checks, okay, can I send him a text message? And then it says yes, but it's not actually able to send him a text message, then it won't send him a text message. Or what could happen and what you might be seeing is that you have a condition where it's like, if they have text message, send them a text message. If they have email, send them an email. If they have OTN, send them an OTN. But when you do it through a condition like that, it'll only go through one thing and that's it. It doesn't divide the traffic. Oh, if they have this, then send them that. Oh, if they have this as well, send them that. What you have to do in that case is, and I wasn't going to cover this, but let me go into it. Template. I'm trying to find my rebate automation one there where it's got all of them, but obviously I have a lot here, so it's always hell to find. Okay, here it is here. So this is it right here where you send them kind of your internal giveaways, right? I've made a little webinar of this. So what you need to do is like your condition should look something like this, where you're sending them a text message and then it goes straight to another, like if they have SMS enabled, then they get this, and it goes into this other condition. Okay, now it checks to see, okay, do they have email? If yes, then it goes down here. And then they go to another condition. It follows the next one. Okay, is it have they interact with the page in less than a day? If so, then it goes down there. If no, like if OTN is enabled, then it goes here. And that's how you're able to essentially send them more than one message at a time. Because if you just do it, let's say I didn't have this follow up here. Let's say I just had the SMS, like pretend like this wasn't here. Then it would just send them the SMS and it wouldn't go down the line here. Because the way these conditions work is it's like it checks condition one, then condition two, then boom, 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 like that. So if they have SMS, then it goes straight into here and it doesn't continue down the line. It doesn't check these other ones. It just goes straight into here and then it finishes. Okay, so has the blacklist message ever gotten a page in trouble since they get messages? I will say that the blacklist message can get you guys in trouble. And by that, I mean, what could happen is if you get a lot of people that are getting the blacklist message, meaning let's say they're the undesirables or like you shared your blacklist and you got a huge blacklist and a lot of people, right, mainly coming from Facebook advertising are getting this like, oh, we ran out of stock or, oh, you're ineligible or whatever it may be. This can get you in trouble because of the fact that the users, the customers can come in and report your page. And if enough people report your page, instant banned. And unfortunately, I've seen it happen. I mean, you can't confirm that that's what's happening, but it's pretty obvious. Like, okay, we got a bunch of people hit the kind of scammer message, and then all of a sudden, boom, now our page gets blocked because, we get flagged as a scam, even though it's not a scam. It's just like we're stopping the scammers from scamming us. So now we're a scam. So yeah, it can get you into a little bit of trouble if you have an excessive amount of people getting that message. So that's where, really good targeting and making sure you're not targeting the deal seekers comes in really handy. So just bear that in mind. Okay. I think that's it. So guys, keep in mind that like all the resources, again, like the Google kind of document right here gives you kind of access to the beta templates, as well as kind of these new templates that we've just come up with. Anything that has new means that it's not technically on the website. Most likely will be there at some point. But yeah, so take a look at these. Definitely use them. If you're running rebate giveaways, you might as well. I mean, you're literally losing nothing other than a little bit of time, but the time investment is really worth it. You don't have to do all four like I did. Like I just did some craziness there. Usually I only use these two. Well, I actually use three, depending on the clients, what they want. Sometimes they don't want refer a friend, but like most of the time they will. So again, just these two, man. If you use just these two, you'll be really amazed at like how much you're getting out of the customers that are just going through the rebate automations. Like you're capturing the OTN, you're really using that list. I mean, it comes back to that one question we received early on in this call, where it's like, oh, how big does the list get until it becomes a real asset? It's like you can have 10,000 leads and it not be an asset because you can only message 100 of them. Just like how you can have 500 leads, but that's a huge asset because you're able to message all of them. So these flows empower you to be able to capture that being able to capture that method of contacting them again. So essentially you're capturing their data essentially, but you're just really enabling your page for future success, really. Okay, I think that is it. Again, the recording. So if you guys haven't already had access, make sure you check in the chat here, but the recording will be found right here. After the call, I'll be putting in our Google folder and I'll be putting that right here. And if you want access to all the other recordings, right, I highly advise you go through some of them if you haven't already, just because like a lot of the topics here overlap, and not really overlap, but they build onto each other. Like understanding footer flows is really great and all, but if you don't understand how to use the audience, meaning you don't know how to run internal giveaways, it's kind of useless. It's like, whatever. But if you understand to use internal giveaways, knowing footer flows is like extremely important now, because now you understand how the value in being able to actually message your audience later down the line. So you want to add anything, Troy, before we end things off? Because I think I'm done rambling.
Nope, I think that's it. I think we've got all the resources out there. If anybody has any questions, once you dive into resources, hop over to FBA Kings, our Facebook group, pose your questions there. We'll definitely try to keep an eye out and take full advantage, whether it's the content, the free flows, some of the videos we dropped in the link, the Chrome extension. Definitely take full advantage and let us know your feedback. Is there things that you'd like to see or we can help you with? But I think that covers it, Tyler. It was a good session today.
Yeah, for sure. And again, guys, if you do need any assistance with kind of these flows, or like you're not sure, or maybe you have your own ideas and they're not templatized here, highly advise you go through kind of the experts tab and you find one of the experts that might match whatever goals you're trying to do. And you work with our experts. They're really good ManyChatters, and they've got a lot of experience in the game, so they know how to build very complex flows, and they can easily plumb in all these kind of templates. It's not something that's very too difficult, and they can obviously customize some that you may have ideas for, but again, they might not be out there, and you're just not sure how to execute it, but you want to do it. The experts come in and help you out. And that is it, guys. I'll see you guys. Actually, one last plug-in. Next week, guys, is going to be a real, I'm actually excited because we're going to have a guest, and it's not going to be Troy. I mean, although Troy's awesome, but we're going to have a guest come in. I have a lot of respect for this guy, like a lot. And we're going to be talking about Amazon SEO. And I think this is just a huge topic to get into. It'll tie in nicely with the next week's topic, like the next week's topic, which is meta interactions. So next week is going to be SEO explained, really diving into some really kind of hardcore facts. Again, the guy that we're bringing in, huge respect for him. Maybe you guys know him, maybe not. I'm not going to say anything else than that, but he knows a lot about Amazon SEO. He's been in the space for a long time. So even I'm excited because some of the stuff that he's coming in with is just going to be amazing. I'm really looking forward to that week.
Absolutely.
So
echo the sentiment. I'm looking forward to it too. It'll be a great session.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be, yeah. Okay. Peace, guys. Take it easy, and wish you guys the happy weekend.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.